Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a good day when you can have the dynamic duo in the house. Today, we got Julian and his wife, Melissa. They are newly coming into the real estate market, and I thought this would be an amazing opportunity for us to really dive in, talk about their experiences, see where they're at, and I hear there might be a deal on the way. So why don't we go ahead and jump in? I want to start with Julian just because I know him. I've spent time with him, and we've been talking for a little bit. I know we got kind of back in touch when you were about to take your exam, and you were confident, man. You were like, nah, I'm going to pass it. I'm not worried. Even though the fail rate is first time is well above 70%, you were like, nope, I got it. What kind of confidence was that, man, going into your exam?
Oh man, I was really confident until the point of maybe like the night before, the week before, when it was just those, anything could happen type feelings. But going into it, I just believe in myself. Competency, I'm, as far as learning and schooling and that kind of thing, I've always been good. So when I hit real estate, I hit it really hard and hit the studying really hard, and it was all I was doing for those 4 or 5 months. So
what were you telling me that you got licensed in before? You had taken an exam before, and that's why you kind of felt confident about real estate?
Yeah. So I'm currently also a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. That's a national certification through an organization called NCTRC, and that is my current profession right now. And essentially, what that is in shorter terms, it's a recreational therapist. So I run therapy groups. I currently work with mental health. Some people work in other fields like physical disabilities or whatever. But yeah, so I'm currently a therapist, and that national certification test was a very similar process of, going into the state agency, and, everything's got to be quiet. And so those kind of nerves I'd kind of been through before.
So in college, is that what you got your degree in, was in recreation? I actually
Yes.
don't know if that's like the distinct name, but I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
remember like having that conversation with people.
Yeah, yep. So our college was recreation, parks, tourism administration, and my smaller one is a bachelor with a whatever specializing in recreation therapy.
Yeah, I took one rec class, I remember, and I remember thinking, I think the same way, because I'm a communication major. I think the same way people think about, oh, I'm going to take a comps class and it's going to be really easy. It's like a give me class. And I thought about that. I thought about that for the rec class, and I remember learning about flow, being in a state of flow, and
Yeah.
it's that idea of being in flow has had such a profound like just impact on my general mentality of like where I should be when I'm performing.
Mm.
And it's like I didn't really take much else from the class, but I did take that, and you never really know what you're gonna get. But I do remember like finishing that class and thinking like, well, this would have been like a really cool major to get into if all the classes are kind of like this.
Yeah.
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 So
It's similar. That is the foundation for all of the classes.
yeah, it was really cool. So you are doing that, and Melissa, what are you into right now?
Right.
Obviously not the actual your real estate stuff, but what have you been doing? I know I remember something about photography, but I don't have the full gist.
Yeah. So just spinning off of what you were talking about in the Rex class, that's where I met Julian.
Yeah.
Okay,
We met in his rec class. Yeah. So,
love it. First rec.
yeah, exactly.
That was her one rec class.
My
well,
one
like
rec
yours.
class. I am not a rec major. So, yeah, I mean, I went to Sac State, and I graduated actually from the apparel merchandising and marketing program.
Okay.
So that's where I kind of did my thing in college. And then after college, I spun off and started kind of, we met, had kids, stayed home. I've done stuff in behavioral health. And then I kind of found like my passion in creativity and photography. And so I kind of delved into that and really explored that, and doing that, setting up, a business in a creative space is interesting, because then you're taking something subjective and then trying to market it and do all these other kinds of things with it, right? Promote yourself to the consumers. So that's kind of like been what I've been doing more recently. Yeah. And then I kind of found myself in real estate.
So what kind of camera do you shoot on?
Canon.
Canon?
I was Nikon, but for a while, and then oh god, I just love Canon. Don't get me.
No, Canon's an amazing. So I have a Blackmagic cinema camera, and it shoots Canon lenses. So I like the lenses. Obviously, it's been around, but I like to shoot Sony. I like the mirrorless. They're quiet and that whole ecosystem. Just like I'm an Apple fan, so I'm real big about ecosystem, and I like their systems.
Yeah, no. So if I had to go with the secondary option, for sure, Sony. I love it. Mine's mirrorless too, but I'm Canon mirrorless. I just love the colors. So it's all preference when it comes down to cameras.
So essentially, going back to Julian. So you took your exam. What'd you think? Was it hard? Was it easy? I thought it personally. I've said this time and time again. I thought it was a really convoluted test. I wasn't sure if I passed. I'm a relatively educated person, but even taking it, I was like, man, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I did well, but that was weird.
Yeah, so I definitely felt like, so before my recreation therapy test, they told us, you need to basically understand certain concepts, and they're going to ask you, like, they're going to try to trick you, and they're going to ask you like a question, and it would be vague or something like that. This is what they said. There's going to be more than one right answer. Like literally there will be multiple right answers, but you have to find the most correct answer. The real estate one was like, I think you might've been somebody who told me this. I think it was you. And I remember walking away from our conversation like, what's this guy talking about, but that like 30% of the test is like things that aren't even in the courses or something like that, things that they don't even teach you. And I was like, that can't be possible. I feel like 30% of that test was like, what are they talking about? Like, we never learned anything like this. Straight, using process of elimination and educated guesswork to try to get the right answers. But where I was really happy is that, I guess in recent years they took the math out. So that was nice.
I didn't know that.
There was no math on mine. So that was like,
well, that's interesting. They don't have for your licensing for a loan officer. In some states they do have a math section, and they don't in California, or they don't, or it doesn't count. No, they don't, as far as I remember. And so I remember people complaining about that, even though I studied it and everything. But yeah, man, we were talking about that, and it's not as super prevalent on the real estate side. There is a good chunk of it where it's, especially depending on the course you took, how much is covered and how in depth that goes. But that is very prevalent on the loan side. And that's why there's so many secondary programs that are dedicated to helping people pass that exam. Because as far as like I've known anybody, once they go through their initial education, I don't know anybody that's just hasn't done a secondary program to pass, because it's so different. Now, keep in mind, if you're getting licensed in real estate, I believe, and you might have to correct me on this, I believe it's 125 hours of education. 125? 150?
It was three 45-hour courses. 335 or 45-hour courses?
Yeah, I think it was 345.
Yeah, 45. Yeah. That adds up your math.
Yeah. But in what people are going to be like doing the math quick in the head, be like, these guys are idiots. Yeah. I do math. It's been a while since I took that exam, and I remember going back because I have to renew my license next year. And but when you do it for the loan side, it's only 40 hours, so it's far less time consuming the content, right? Yeah. And the way that I went through the course, it is you do like the kind of sit down education portion, and then you have to do a case study. and then the case study is reviewed and they have to approve it, and the case studies aren't great. So it was a really odd thing, but yeah, a lot of people do these secondary programs, and I'm actually creating my own secondary program for loans. And then we'll also do one for real estate, just because it is very difficult for people to kind of consume this information. And luckily, you and I and the kind of the people that I've been around have been in the percentage of people that pass on the first time. But when I was going through these Facebook groups I was in, there are people that were that were failing the exams 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
And when
so I'm sorry. I was just going to say the course that I was in came with like a Facebook group, and people never cease to surprise you, and it was surprising sometimes seeing people getting caught up on like the same things over and over again. And it's like there were certain things where I was like, okay, now I can see why. That gave me confidence. I was like, I can see why people fail. Like, they're asking these questions, and how do you not understand that type of thought process? Or like, I understand if you don't understand it the first time, but when there's like 157 replies and you're still arguing with everybody who's telling you the answer, like the buyer being the mortgagor, not the bank or so.
Yeah. OREE, all of that whole thing. Right. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what also really helped me is, I just recently got into like this podcast thing, and then I was getting into the audiobook thing. And so when I decided to go for my real estate course, I was like, well, they got to have like an audio course type deal. And that's what I found. And that was very helpful, because it was like the in between, I feel like, of like studying on your own, but also being in the classroom, because they are taught by actual professors that do the classes as well.
Yeah.
And so that was extremely helpful. I would just, in the shower, have my podcast going, or not podcast, but have the audio class going. In my car on to work, have the class going. On my way home, have the class going. So that's how I breezed through it as fast as possible. That was my goal. I think overall, because the way the course is set out, you have 18 days minimum that you have to spend taking each course. And so my goal was to finish it in exactly whatever that math was. It was like 59 days or like 54 days or something like that. And so I think I made 59 days. It took me 59. I took a few more breaks than I meant to, but that was extremely helpful for anybody else out there that's thinking about taking their license.
Yeah, I think that audio, what you're talking about, the audio class, I didn't have that. I think that would have been really helpful. You're right. But I do remember that when I was going through it, that they were like, it's about 3 months, right? If you're gonna like allot yourself time to study, and you have to pass the pre-tests as well. If you don't pass them, you have to retake them or whatever, right? To get your certification or your certificates to send in. And then the DRE was so backlogged that it took forever for me to schedule our exams. And then once the exams were scheduled, we were good. But I think in total it was a 6-month process from start to finish. And that's like getting my number from the DRE and then going to the Sacramento Association of Realtors to pay all my dues and all of that, right? And then the other thing is it took maybe an additional 2 weeks to get everything lined up with my broker and make sure everything looked good on their side and our side. And I had even more trouble with this on the actual loan side, because there's a lot more regulations that are on loan side because you're dealing with money. And so, yeah, it was a nightmare. But yeah, I think what you did sounds like, like pretty solid, and you passed. So, so you passed. How long ago was that?
I bought the course on January 10th, and I officially got licensed the day I passed my test on the 18th. I did have the broker already lined up in the works. So the moment
so that was January this year?
Yes.
Dude, we talked that long ago about it?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I feel like it was just like not that long ago.
It could have been like, February or March when we were talking. But yeah, like you said, I did finish it in the 59 days. So that's 60 days. That was 2 months. And then, but then the backlog of the DRE was ridiculous. And so luckily that's a huge tip for people out there. Like, get that going before. Don't just wait till you get to the end of your course. Then you're like, now what? It's like, no, you want to schedule that as soon as possible and be on top of that. If you can line a brokerage up, that's extra homework to be doing, because if you don't, it could be another month once you pass your test for all that to go through.
How do you feel about telling people that you're taking your test? Because
I don't like even doing that.
It was kind of nerve wracking because on the first one, when I did my real estate license, I did tell people, and it felt like a lot of pressure going into it because I'm like, oh, what if I don't pass? Like, people are gonna be like, oh. And then on my LO one, I didn't tell. My only person that knew was my wife, and then my broker, because I had to tell him. And but yeah, it was just like, it felt like a lot of pressure letting people know that you're getting licensed, because there's a stigma a little bit in real estate that did you pass on the first time, right? And it's not really with consumers, because they don't care at all. They don't ask. It never comes up. But with other realtors, if you ever end up talking about it, they want to know, like, oh, did you pass the first time, right?
Interesting. I haven't. You're probably the only other realtor that I've really talked about that with, so I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah,
I've had that thought. I've had that thought, because I don't know if he told you, but I have tried to take this. I haven't taken the test yet, but I haven't even finished the course yet. But let me tell you this. I've taken the course. We've bought it 3 times.
3 or 4
2
times.
or 3 times, because we're just different people.
Yeah.
He immerses himself in knowledge. He can get all that. I'm creative. I'm multitasking. So for him, when he was like, oh yeah, you haven't finished that yet, I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish it. And then I'm going to take the test. And he's talking to all these people and telling them. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so anxiety inducing. Like, you're telling people you're taking the test.
Yeah. Do you want to punch him in the face while he's sleeping because he's just like stealing your dreams from you?
I'm like, excuse you. Like, I would love to, but like different, like that is a lot of hours of coursework to sit there and like, I'm like hands-on.
Yeah.
I just, so I'm still in the process, because I eventually want to join him and help him in the things that he does that are needing the license. But yes, so yeah, I get that whole anxiety, and I have those thoughts of like, should I tell people what I'm working on before I'm successful at it? What will they say?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, and that's why I kind of like to ask people about the exam and things like that. I mean, personally, for myself, I'm developing an education course, right? So to me, it's interesting, and part of the overarching idea of the course that I'm developing is developing a program that works for people's learning styles, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we're missing now. Between my wife and I, we have about 350 hours invested in this, developing this program. So there's a lot more to it, but that's the overarching idea. And then you can see that between the two of you guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So this is really why I wanted to have both of you on. This is what caught my attention, right? Is obviously, Julian gets his license. He's going to be doing the real estate stuff. And for a lot of you guys, that's probably going to be very similar. You're going to learn how to do prospecting. You're going to learn how to do door knocking. You're going to learn how to do marketing and branding for yourself. The first thing almost every broker is going to say is go talk to your sphere of influences, every friend, every person you ever met who it won't, even if it is super awkward, go say hi to them. I remember reaching out to people I haven't talked to since high school and just being like, yo, man, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. I'm in real estate, right? So that's a similar story I think we're going to hear time and time again. But what really interests me about you was the partnership that you wanted to create with your wife and the dynamic that you guys are going to have kind of as you continue to grow within the industry. I know that, Julian, you're doing essentially residential, and I'm not sure is your broker. You haven't even said the name of your brokerage yet. Who are you with?
I'm with Next Home Premier Properties out of Folsom.
That's Next Foam?
Next Home.
Next Home. Got it. Next Home.
Little orange dog.
Okay. Next Home. And so are you going to be doing commercial, residential? What's your game plan?
Yeah, right now I'm just focused on residential, and I'm trying to focus on going straight to being a listing agent.
Okay.
So I've purchased like an online course that I really like. Brandon Morenen's course from YouTube. He's a pretty good one. He does this what's called reverse selling. So his whole process is on not like being pushy at all and not selling people. He the entire time, like, working on FISBOs, we call them. And, the whole idea is like, hey, why wouldn't you try to sell your house and your home? That's a great idea. That's what I would try to do. And so you kind of like ease their guard that way instead of, I've watched some pretty harsh videos on YouTube of people just like trying to put a buyer in a corner or a seller in a corner and tell them why they should list with them. But yeah, so anyways, I'm doing that, and I'm trying to go straight into just being a listing agent and working on those prospecting skills and those conversion skills like we talked about.
Yeah, let's break down a couple of things on that. First off, YouTube, right? I think YouTube is the unsung hero of our generation, like the dad you never had teaching you everything that you need to know. It's pretty amazing. And I know for me, when I was getting into real estate, I did the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to YouTube. I do that for pretty much, like, I'll try to find some articles, but I almost always will just go to YouTube. And my guy was Graham Stephan. I don't know if you've seen his stuff. He's obviously super popular, but he doesn't post a lot about real estate anymore because he's out in, I think
That's
he's in
what I was gonna
Vegas.
say. By the time I found about him, he's the crypto stocks rich guy. He only every now and then drops, oh yeah, by the way I got here is through real estate. So.
Well, the interesting thing about real estate is if you're in it long enough, you see the overarching idea of finance, right? And so you can't help but branch into these other ideas. The other problem is it's so hard to continue to post stuff about real estate because it becomes really redundant, right? After a while, you're saying the same thing over and over. And I think for YouTube, the views are everything for their income. But he's the person that I followed. He's doing all of that stuff. But if you're brand new, every resource I think you need to learn how, wherever you're missing, that chink in your chain. YouTube's a great resource for that, right? And it sounds like you dove in. For those of you that don't know, FISBO is a for sale by owner. So if you decide that you want to sell your own house, that's a terrible idea unless you're a realtor. Don't do it. I mean, it's really, here's the thing, right? The people that the people that go after people that are selling their own house, they're not going to do right by you, right? They're not going to try to like help you out. Like they're going to try to take as much advantage of you as they possibly can because they want to buy that property, right? And you don't really have a knowledge base for selling the property, for knowing, really, you don't have access to the things that we as a realtor have access to know what property values are. I mean, Zillow is not going to win for you guys. So keep that in mind, right? I mean, that's not accurate stuff. And so what Julian is pretty much saying is that what he wants to do is be of service to you, right? He wants to list your house for you. I don't know if he's, what his pitch is. I don't know anything like that. If you do want to know, reach out to him, right? But ultimately, I think that's what you're saying, right? You're trying to break into that FISBO market because it's just typically not good for him. Every underlining aggregate that comes back essentially says that people that sell their own houses who are not, keep in mind, like a licensed realtor or super real estate savvy, they lose money. They don't get as much money as they could as working with a realtor.
Yeah,
so
they don't get as much money. So that's one way where we're hugely trying to serve them. The other thing is, just to be frank and honest about it, a lot of them are wasting their time. They realize they think it's easy, and they think as realtors we don't do anything, and that we're not. We basically just show up and collect a check and don't deserve it. And they don't realize how much goes into marketing their home. They don't realize how much goes into those conversations with the buyers and buyer's agent, because a lot of people selling their home, they obviously don't want the buyer to have an agent either, but kind of down the same line that I'm talking right now. First they go, no, we're not going to work with an agent at all. And then time ticks. And then they go, all right, we'll work with a buyer's agent only at 3%, and then time ticks, and they do get into an offer, but then they've got this agent who's just savvy and looking out for his buyers like us agents do, and they eventually. The truth is, the reason so many real estate agents are going after for sale by owners is because they don't sell their homes on their own. It's an incredibly difficult, arduous process. And if they do get to the final line, like you're saying, they typically lost a lot of money in the process that realtor would have kept on the table.
Yeah, I think
So that's
that
the exact
would be
reason
a
to do
hard industry for me personally to handle, because I think anybody that's under their assumption that they can handle 400, 500, $600,000 transaction on their own with no legal understanding, no really understanding of real estate and things like that is probably going to be a little hard-headed.
Yeah.
And I feel like that for me personally, I would be really like hard pressed to be like, you don't just listen to me, man. Listen, please. Like, I know what I'm talking about, but you know, God bless you,
along
dude.
your lines of being of service and stuff. Like I told you, you know, I use a thing called reverse selling. I don't beat anybody up on the phone, and actually I help people. So I have FSBO marketing tools. I have so stuff to help them try to do it on their own. I provide assistance. I'll run real comps for them. I will along the lines assist them and help them try to sell their own home, because one, like you said, is to be of service. I've had people ask me, well, what's the catch? And this one lady put it best. I was like, there's really no catch. You know, just at the end of the day, if I'm here helping you, maybe you don't end up listing your house and we do sell it. And I was like, but what happens when your friends and your parents and your family members need to sell their house? Like, who's the realtor you're going to recommend? And she's like, okay, so it's like a marketing thing. I was like, yeah, exactly. That is my marketing. Like, I'm going to be here, help you. I give them my contact information. Hit me up whenever you want. Ask me any questions you want. And again, in the background, a lot of that confidence can come from, well, I do know that, and I tell them this up front too. Once we get to talking, I say, hey, you know, just to be honest with you, like, the numbers are against you. Most for sale by owners do not sell their own home. They end up listing with an agent. And the longer your house stays on market, the higher that pressure is going to crank on you. So I just want you to know that up front. And so I'll be here, I'll help you. And hopefully you can get through that time. If we talk for the next month or so while your house is on the market, you can see, like, this is a great realtor. Like, he knows what he's talking about. He's been extremely helpful. He's here to provide a service for me.
Yeah, this is going to be a critical time for you for probably the next 4 to 6 months, because I'm not sure if you've been following, but so for those of you who know Sacramento, have followed what's going on, you might know, but for those of you who haven't, Sacramento was last year promoted nationally as the top market in the country. A lot of that has to do with people moving from the Bay Area where they can't afford into Sacramento. It's an easily commutable city. Plus, we do have relatively, we have a pro basketball team. We do have a soccer team. We have entertainment here. It's not that far from the city, and it's about an equal distance from Tahoe and San Francisco. It's about an hour more to get to the beach. I mean, it's a great place to live if you want to visit California, right? So the real estate prices here skyrocketed. I mean, you have national press saying Sacramento, 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 on top of everybody, kind of wanting, because of COVID, to move into a place. But because of the rate hikes that have gone up and things like that, the new numbers that are coming out is that property values, and this is in non-luxury properties, have gone down about 30%, about 32%, and luxury properties are closer to 40 to 47%. What does that mean? Well, that means that over the last 2.5 years, as property values have shot up here, there's still value in your property, right? It hasn't plummeted. It's not back to before the time of COVID. But if you want to get as much value as you can out of your property, you need to sell it in the next 4 to 6 months, or you're going to be back where you were before COVID. And that, I guess I would call it false equity that was in your property is going to be gone, right? Rates are sitting right now at about 7.06%. And the feds meet again twice this year, where we expect rates are going to go up another 1% to 2%. So if you need to sell your house, or you want to sell your house, I would definitely, in your I know you work in the Sacramento area. Where do you live? I mean, don't tell us your address, but where are you at?
I live pretty much right in the heart of Sacramento. I'm very close to Sac State.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of it all. I can reach Roseville and Folsom and Elk Grove and Natomas all within, 20 to 30 minutes. So.
So if you're looking to list your house, or especially if you're looking to list your house and you're like, I don't know about hiring a realtor, I want to do it on my own, and you want to talk to somebody who can at least guide you through that, I would definitely consider this because, it's always, if you need to sell your house, you need to sell your house. But if you're trying to leverage the equity that was put into it over the last couple years, you're running out of time, right? Yeah. So let's move on. What I want to talk about and what I hinted at before was your partnership, right? You're doing residential, but then you're like, oh yeah, my wife is trying to get into it too, right? Because initially you and I were talking about how my background's in marketing. That's what I do. I run the marketing side of our brokerage along with a couple other things. And we were talking about back and forth of ideas. And you're like, well, my wife is photography. She's going to get into it. And you're like, we're going to partner together. So what I want to hear is about that partnership, that dynamic. How did the conversation start? And where are you guys currently at with that?
Yeah. So backstory going back a little bit, the reason I started getting into real estate, as she said, she's been trying to get into real estate since maybe 2017, 2018, when she originally bought those courses. Her motivation was, it was a job she can do on her own schedule, on her own time, from home. And like she said before, she was a stay-at-home mom. She is a stay-at-home mom. And so that's the reason it was so hard for her to get through the courses. There's so many things going on around the house. Mm-hmm. That's also the reason I was able to bust through my courses. I'm coming home and I'm, she's holding down for me and I have no distractions. She's got the kids, she's got food, she's got the whole routine down. But I had no interest in real estate. Never wanted to be a real estate agent. And then what ended up happening was I started, like you said, mine was reverse of what you said with Graham Stephan. I was just getting into the money part of it. I was starting to understand. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, started understanding the way money should flow into investments, then into the things that the luxuries of your life. And I ended up finding Bigger Pockets podcast, which is a great one out there for anybody interested in investing. And like after 5 days of binging that, literally that was January 5th. That's when I was like, okay, I'm obsessed with real estate now, just the whole industry, the whole concept, but primarily coming from an investing standpoint. And something that was said to me, the reason I became started the real estate course, because I didn't want to be a real estate agent. That's not why I got my license, or why I started taking the course, at least. I took the course because in one of the podcasts I was listening to, he was just saying like, maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you don't have the money to purchase something yet. Maybe you don't have whatever you need ready, but like do something close to real estate. Are you a photographer? Go do real estate photography. Are you a handyman? Go go help with inspections, go help with flippers. Are you like, whatever you can do, like get close to the industry. You're going to build networking, you're going to build contacts, you're going to gain knowledge through that way and experience. And so I was like, hey, I'll just take the real estate course. Like, why not? Like, that's got to be a surefire way to learn a lot about real estate, which it was. Probably more than I need to know, but that actually gives me another level of confidence. So I that's where I came into it from. And about midway through the course, I kind of had an idea of like, this sounds kind of fun. Like, why haven't I thought about this before? Like, I love to talk with people. I love working with people. I'm a people person. I'm social. I can talk. This is something that's right up my alley. And then it started morphing into, hey, this can help me get out of my situation faster. So while I am a therapist and I am a recreational therapist, and that sounds like a lot of fun, and to be honest, I do have a lot of fun with my job, but I currently work at the prison, and that is the highest pay I can get for my position right now. And it's just a very bad environment to work in, though. Sure. And I've been there for almost 9 years now, and I've just met my limit. I'm done with that. So through that whole journey of getting into real estate was, okay, we need to be money motivated, money focused. So even before me getting the real estate, we were starting her photography business with just family photography and things like that, and just trying to see what we could get going. And when real estate came along, it was like, we're going to the real estate investing meetups, and it was like, whoa, like we can get your photography into this. We can roll that into it too. So we started there and starting with real estate photography. So we bought a couple courses on that. And yeah, and that whole time I've been talking about investing and wholesaling and flipping and rentals and all those things. And I think that kind of opened up her horizons too. And so that's where I can kind of like let her take over the floor as far as where our newest partnership is going, because it started out saying maybe we would do this real estate photography thing. Yeah. But, you know, truly, like she said, it's art. Her passion was in taking pictures of families. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know how excited she got about the idea of taking pictures of homes.
Yeah.
but
it's not super glamorous by any means, but you know, it's entertaining.
Yeah. It's not. It's a slight form of art, right? But it's not the same thing. I mean, I'm sure have seen the difference in people's photos when they take their own photos, mm-hmm. right, for houses versus a professional,
right?
When they have professional photos, right? So you have to have skill, you have to have knowledge, and there's just a little bit lacking in the creativity. But I loved this idea of us working together, building together, and like, you know, creating something together. But again, my creative side was saying, these big things that I do want to do still, and I do want to do them in real estate. Like I want to flip. Mm-hmm. I want to be the person calling the shot on the designs, you know, and, you know, I'm sure a lot of people have seen like from like 5 or 10 years ago, and you're watching HGTV and you get to pick out the designs and the reno, and like,
sure.
Now that you understand all of that and kind of see the different methods that you can take to like do those things, and you know, my creative mind wanders there, but how do we get there? So is me helping out in the photography space, which I do love, is that going to help get us there? Yes, but what else can help us get us there faster, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I kind of started moving into wholesale. And that's where he and I can have like similar conversations, and we sit down and we're sitting there and we're working together, and I'm like, hey, I think this might be good for you. I don't think that this would be a good deal for me. So I hand it off to him. Right. So it all happened very organically, where it was kind of like, he's like, yeah, you can maybe just offer to do this house for free. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely can. And so that's something that I could have done for longer. But again, the creative in me was kind of like trying to get to my space faster. Mm-hmm. So we just I have moved into a different space, and that's where we kind of right now are bouncing off of each other. So I actually had a FSBO, and I got the FSBO idea from him, and that's kind of where my deal is that I'm working on recently. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's a good sphere to be in, right? Because of the way that Julian is essentially attacked how he wants to enter Facebook, how he wants to enter into the market as a realtor. Those are essentially the type of people that you need to be in contact with, who to do flips and to do these wholesale deals with, right? Because unfortunately for them, they're going to make less money, but that's the benefit of you as a wholesaler or as a flipper, right? And if you guys aren't super, just like a quick knowledge base kind of thing. So when you're doing wholesaling, typically the format is you guys leverage a property, and let's say they're going to sell it to you for $100,000. You guys get the contract for that, and then you can sell that contract to somebody else where they're going to be able to make 130 off of it, and they're going to pay you 15 grand in between, right? That's the general idea. It can be a pretty difficult thing to do if you're not knowledgeable, if you don't have your margins right. But if you can do it, people make a lot of money off it. And the most beneficial thing, well, not beneficial, but the nice thing about it is you don't have to be licensed to do wholesaling. You don't have to be licensed to do investment properties.
States. Yeah. In most states.
Yeah, California, right? California.
Across the country right now, that a lot of states, I think Iowa just switched,
Colorado. So there's just certain places, you know, and some people don't always realize you can do this virtually. Like you can technically, but I just stay out of those states where it's like, you know, I could always use him as a realtor.
And on the consumer end, you know, so for real estate agents out there, we can also do wholesaling. Like we said, in these other states, you have to be a licensed real estate agent to do it. But on the consumer end, it always sounds like, why would anybody do that? Why would I sell my house to her for 100 and then she's going to go sell it for 115 and make, I would just sell it for 115.
Right.
But the idea there is the service being provided is most of the home owners in these situations are in a real bad situation where time is of the essence and they need to get rid of their house fast. So maybe that could be that you're in foreclosure with your house. You have had trouble making payments.
You have liens.
Maybe that could be you just have a lot of investors who just have too many products, and there's just this pain in the side products. I'm sorry, too many properties, and this pain in the side property you have has just been causing you so much headaches. And it's like, oh man, to get this ready to sell, we're gonna have to do so much. These renters completely just trash this house, it needs a new everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when people just don't want to deal with that headache, it helps to work with a wholesaler who can move that property for you and who has the network of investors to get it done. So that's also the part, again, a lot of people try to sell their home on their own or even list it with a realtor. Well, a lot of these properties are in such bad shape that with a realtor listing it, buyers wouldn't be able to qualify. You can speak to this part. A bank wouldn't put a FHA loan on this anyways, or any kind of loan. It just doesn't meet the standards because the house is in such bad shape. And then the investor or the homeowner doesn't want to repair it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like,
or they can't.
So it's like, we need to get this gone, and we need to find somebody who can offer us all cash. So that's what she's doing. She's plugged into a network of investors who can offer all cash for people in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's a niche market, right? It's not going to happen to everybody. A lot of times you will see this too with like when a grandparent dies or a parent dies and the house gets, in probate to a kid and they don't live in the area. They don't want to deal with the house. They just want to get rid of it, right? And so sometimes, that's a house is in distress, obviously, or like key for that. But, it has to be worth the thing for everybody. And I think for wholesaling, the true skill set in that is having a essentially stable of investors that you can rely on to pull these products out of your pocket and put it into theirs, right? And that's where you really start to build those skill sets up. And that takes a little bit of time to get that. But we're kind of, as a brokerage, we do that same thing. We focus more on high-end Victorian restorations. So we're mostly in Midtown and in East Sac because they have the codes for those properties, right? It's in the right area. The right type of properties have been designed there. And so that's where we mostly are. But that happens as well out there. You would think in like the Fab 40s that wouldn't happen. But it's like, people lived there before the Fab 40s were really like, a thing. They were just the 40s. And the inside of the properties aren't great. You can drive there and there's stuff happening now. So, but I like, are you going to continue with the photography side? Because, obviously we talked a little bit about price points when we saw each other not that long ago. And there's not a ton of money, in the scheme of real estate, I say, right? Because in real estate, you could make $400,000 a year. You can make a ton of money. But when you're doing photography for properties and things like that, it's almost like getting nickeled and dime, right? I mean, they can kind of decide what they want. You could make $150 off it. You can make $600. You can make $1,200. It just kind of varies. And there is costs associated with you being able to do it. But then there's also, you could do portraits for realtors that are brand new to the market, and there's stuff. I'm wondering, are you gonna try to build that side of your business up still?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that photography in general is just such like a passion and love of mine that it'll always be there. So I think that wholesaling, as much as I put into it, I'll always have a little bit of time to continue to sustain the other business because I did his headshots. I've done other people.
He's got a nice headshot too.
Thank you.
I don't even think he looks good, but I saw that headshot and I was like, "Whew, I might have to hire that guy." I don't know, dude.
As my husband, I never do this. And if you are in the photography world, you will know this. Mm-hmm. You don't let anybody touch your raw photos, right? Mm-hmm. So I edited his headshot, and then I allowed him. This is the only other person I've allowed to tweak and edit his photo. So I don't normally like that, but I'm glad you say you liked it, because then you kind of like a little bit of his style. It was mostly me. It was me. But I allowed.
I get some credit.
He gets a little bit of credit, because I was like, ooh, I would have warmed that up a little bit, but okay.
Yeah, I have a relatively kind of like sharper, darker style in general as it pertains to like how I like to edit. Obviously, like real estate is supposed to be bright and like, you know, flowy and all of this stuff, but I do like to edit a little bit sharper.
Yeah. So I just think it's so different, because you're moving from humans moving to like stuff, right? Like a house. You're trying to. So yeah, I'll always, you know, people hit me up and they ask me, you know, oh, I need headshots or whatever, and I've done it for people in his sphere.
That's probably that's kind of how
I stay in that real estate
that
world.
marriages her ideas, where she's liked family and working with people and doing that, but coming to real estate, I probably won't see her. I don't think she'll push getting the homes done still. But that business
probably for his listings, I would probably do it. I mean, that's like a money saver.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For us.
100%. And maybe from there it grows more, you know, because I think like everything with real estate, your first one is always kind of, you know, real. Once you break that, you kind of get more comfortable. And so we're at the point with her where, you know, market, it's just like any other business and in anything, finding that first client, somebody to hire her. So I haven't gotten a listing yet for her to be able to go do, but yeah, you know, that's a whole nother business we need to get into, like you said.
The nice thing about you being a realtor, right, is that you can essentially, I don't know if this is allowed necessarily, so if the NRA or CAR or the Sacramento is listening, you know, I don't know, but you know, maybe looking over your shoulder, she can look at the MLS and she can literally just go through everything that's on there and find all the properties that have terrible photos. There's even realtors who put properties on there and they're like, oh, photos are coming. Like don't put it up if you don't have photos there. Like, what's wrong with you? But you know, it's a good way, because when I initially got into it as well, I got into it specifically for the photography and videography side. And I was just like, and then I got my license and I started to kind of think the same way. And I was like, man, granted, I wasn't in a position to do this because of the nature of how I got hired at my brokerage and what I was doing there. But I was like, if I needed to, I guess I could just go through, you know, all 3,000 postings in the greater Sacramento region. And I bet I could find at least 10 houses that are filmed or photoed terribly or have been on the market for 60, 90, 120 days and be like, hey, I'll come out. I'll do it for half price. I'll do it for $300. And, you know, you get 3 of those in a day. That's $1,000. I mean, you know, that's more than a lot of people are making in a month, a week, you know, whatever. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, you know, it's a matter of work and things like that, but there's a lot of opportunity, and especially we're going to see property sitting more and more and more probably over the next 12 to 18 months. You know, they're going to need every single advantage as they can as it goes into being a buyer's market, right? So definitely something to look into, like on your side. But I personally, I'm the same way as you. I like to shoot people. Actually, I like video. I'm a video guy. Like, I would rather do anything with that. But packages for realtors. So a lot of people, they stop at headshots, right? I think that's a mistake. If you're a realtor and you're brand new, I get it. If you don't have a lot of money or things like that, headshots are great, but you need to sell yourself as a person of a community, right? So whether you're going to start right in your community or you're going to be Sacramento branded, right? You should have a series of photos. And I did this for one of my realtors who she wanted to break into the Fab 40s, which is a tough place to break into because these people have money. They like their business confidential, and a lot of them already have their realtors, right? But I said, if we're going to do this, you have to have photos of yourself in the community because people who want to live in that area know these photos. They'll see them and they'll know, yes, this is the community, or people that live there will see it as well. So I have friends who have properties in the Fab 40s, and I asked them, would it be okay if we took photos in front of your property, on your street, right? Things like that. And I think this is a good opportunity for realtors, you know, call her up, say, Melissa, I want to get my headshots done, but also I want to do a 2-day photo shoot. I want to go to 5 locations. And, you know, first off, it's a write-off, and you need write-offs as a realtor. It's one of the greatest benefits of being a realtor is being able to have write-offs. So spend your money, write it off, right? And you're going to be able to establish yourself, right? If you want to be in a specific community, if you want to take photos in front of the school, in front of the, you know, popular restaurants, things that are noticeable landmarks of those communities. And for you, that's an opportunity, right? You lock in the head. I don't know what you charge for, you know, to do people's headshots, but you lock in the headshot, you lock in another $300-$400 photo shoot. Now you're at $600. And I mean, it's like there is opportunity there, but I feel like so many people, they just stop at, you know, can I shoot your house for you? Can I shoot your house for you? Right.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't see that. And in a world that we live in, we're so perfectly curated and Pinterest and Instagram worthy. You have to keep up with that, or you're just going to fall by the wayside. A, and B, if people feel like they're constantly being sold to, they don't like that. So you can't always go on your socials and talk about real estate. Show that you're a person, you know. And I always tell Julian that, I'm like, you know, I have to schedule him. I have to schedule him to do his content, because people don't, like you said, they don't want to just see the same thing over and over. They want to see you in their neighborhood, in their market.
Right.
You go out into the community, you know, you're a person too. And you can show other people that you are a part of the community, and, you know, you also do real estate. You can also help them and be, you know what I mean, an asset. But yeah. I
mean, that's another thing too, right? Is like, you know, I always tell people when it comes to branding, when I do branding consulting, I tell people that, you know, in the only way that your social media has any true effect as being brand new to your industry is that when they come to it, there's actual content there. Right. And in order for you to appear to be professional and to appear to have been in the market for a long enough time, you need to have about 300 posts up. So if you're really thinking about, it's a ton. I mean, how many times are you willing to post a day to get that content up, right? So there's another opportunity as a, you know, someone within that, as a photographer, of saying like, hey, you need to get stuff up. Like, you need 1,000 photos. I'll take those 1,000 photos, right? That sort of idea. But yeah, it's crazy. And even for myself, Julian and I are in a social group together. I think that's probably the best way to phrase that. And it's funny because we have other people in that group that are realtors, and it often goes really unnoticed, right? For myself, I've been in the industry for going on 4 years now, but I haven't promoted myself very much because I'm a VP with our company. And so I promote our company, right? That's really my job. It's what I get paid for, to coach our realtors, to run our media, to do all of that. And this coming year will be the first year that I'm really promoting myself as an individual. But it can be frustrating, right? Even among your friends, you'll feel this pain of someone, you know, buying or selling a house and not working with you purely because they did not know that you were in real estate, right? I mean, it is not a great feeling, and it has nothing to necessarily do with the money, but more of like, I could have helped you. We're friends. Like, I'm competent type of thing, right? So it's so important, guys, to take the media side of this serious. If you aren't willing to spend the time to learn it, to spend the money to do it, to buy the equipment and all of that stuff. And keep in mind, I have about $10,000 to $15,000 of filming, recording, editing equipment, right? That's why you bring on a professional like Melissa. That's what she's there for, right? So or anybody that else, but that I'm just recommending her because she's right here in my face. But you need these people to develop this stuff for you when you come into the market, because your branding is going to be so important, right? Especially, and I had somebody on the podcast not too long ago, they were talking about the advantage of working at a large national brokerage, that brokerage has instant recognizability as a brand. And if you work for a smaller brokerage like I do and Julian does, you may not be able to leverage that as strongly. And so you really need to develop that, more. And for me, a small brokerage is perfect because I like that sort of feel. That I'm assuming that's very similar to Jillian, and that's probably the case for a lot of you guys out there. But keep that in mind and have these resources available. So we are getting towards the end of the podcast. I do want to talk about today. I know that you guys are really excited. You have a lot going on. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about the details, but it sounds like you guys have something in the works.
Yeah, I do. I can't go into too much detail, but I do have a...
Be as vague and as little detail as you can with trying to let people know what you're doing.
So in general, I typically take, like Max said, I take homes off of people's hands that are in distress or things like that. And I help get them to people that have the resources and the money to fix them up and sell them. So that being said, I do have a deal on the line right now, and it's been kind of, it's under contract with me. And so I am in talks with an investor right now. And he initially kind of brushed me off yesterday, kind of was like, okay, I don't think this is a deal.
That's normal. That's okay.
That's normal, right? And so I was like, that's okay. I could have sat there and been like, okay, what should I do? Like, should I, but I was comfortable. I would run the numbers. I had done all that. So I just said, okay, I'm going to let it wait. And a couple hours later, my phone is blowing up, right? So all day today, all last night, I've been in talks with him. He's seen the property. So let's just hope, fingers crossed, that I hear back from him today. And if not, I think it's really important that you maintain networks in this business, right? Because there's a couple other people that are also reviewing this deal, and I'm working with them as well. So you can't always put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
But I'm hoping this one works out.
All right. Awesome. Well,
I'll say that it's in one of the really nicer communities.
That's probably what you guys really care about. It's one of the most sought after neighborhoods outside of Fab 40s.
Okay.
So it's in East Sacramento. They're going to come in and someone's going to come in and flip it, and it's going to be like amazing. But it could easily get like up between $800,000 and $900,000. It's going to be really nice. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for being on today. I know you guys, you're kind of blossoming into your guys' real estate path. And you guys are going to have a lot of great things coming for you. Hopefully we'll be able to work together someday.
I love that.
But thank you guys for being on, and thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. Again, this is the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. You guys have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.